guys, it is the start of the People's Show, 2 hours of nonstop MLB DFS conversation, taking you straight up the lock. We're of course not going to be here the entire time. We'll be here for the first hour and 20 minutes or so, give or take, until we yield to crunch time. Crunch time, you got STL Cards, you got Dave Potts, Cheese is Good, from the Musings, and of course, Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth, myself, Bobby Gomes, Tasteful Tides. Normally we get together on a Tuesday. I don't know if we got bumped up to a Monday. I'm not really sure how this works, but happy Monday, y'all. It's Bobby. How are things in your world? How was this weekend, Bobby? How were everything good up there in the Boston area?
Everything's been fantastic, Dean. Outside of seeing you on the top of the single entry leaderboards, I was had a good weekend. I think that drastically, like, my mood was up here, and then I saw that, and now it's down here.
I always knew you were a big root against guy, Bobby. Big root against guy.
Yeah.
It was nice little takedown in the 222 single entry series. Some people say hot streaks aren't real, but we got hot. We got hot the entire week. The three of us, I should bring you guys in as well. One of the weeks, or one of the days during the week, we all three of us were in the top 7, I want to say. So, Bobby, I believe you were at the top. You were second. There it is. Producer Devin all over it as well, showing it off to the people. Tim, Tasteful Tides, in 4th, and I was 7th. That's why we're in the top 7, because I was slumping. But I love when DK does that. I love when FanDuel does that. I know RotoGrinders sponsors the single entry series, at least they have in the past. Just added value. There's no reasons not to play those contests. And you know me, I love the single entry stuff as well. And Tim, that's kind of our wheelhouse. But Tim, you were close. You were closing in on Sunday. I think you were top 6, top 7. You were on the board. But one of us is. I don't want to name names, Tim. So one of us is clutch, and the other one maybe not as clutch, or a small sample size. However you want to interpret that.
Yeah, I was 9th going into Sunday's slate, and I fell pretty far back to 24th. But yeah, I had 2 really, really bad days, but I also had 2 really, really good days. So I will take that, and of course, congrats to you, Dean. I think that's a really strong accomplishment, and I think it's awesome. And you won some bonus dollars, so congrats.
Yeah, it's not like my biggest win ever, but like if I would say like this is like my, if I were to be modest, my most this is the one I'm most impressed with, because it's a 7-day run against an incredible field, and everybody's just got that one entry. So I think this will go on my epitaph of DFS, because it's and again I kind of want it running away. It wasn't really close. It just, again, not to toot your own horn, pat your own back, but I feel pretty good about this one. And we don't know when the hot streak's going to stop. Hopefully it doesn't stop tonight. It's DFS. All we care about is today and today only. And I do have some pretty strong takes as far as today's show, and hopefully one of my biggest takes, Bobby, is correct, because somebody, I don't know who it was, who put you in charge of the squad ride? Who nominated you?
I don't know who it was. I forget who it was, but someone nominated me earlier today, and knowing me, like, I had to put my biases aside, and I went with Dean's overbet on the Dodgers Arizona 5.5 first 5 innings, just because he's riding hot. You got to stick with the hot hand. So I went with Dean begrudgingly, but I think he's going to get us to the promised land tonight.
Yeah, I took some stands on that in the middle of the night, and we'll talk about that when we get the stacks later on. But I feel pretty strongly. We did get the lineup, by the way, for that game for Arizona. Interesting, just kind of the setup for the slate. We just talk about basketball when it comes to when the games were being played, and it's a whole different conversation. But it's a 9-game slate tonight, Tim, and I think there's 5 games. I want to say there's 5 games that are 9:30 or later. Yeah, so 5. It's basically split in 2, where there's 4 early games and 5 late games. We did get the Diamondbacks, who are facing James Paxton, and his advanced numbers are so horrendous. We'll talk about it. Blaze Alexander leading off. Gurriel, Ketel Marte, Walker, Suarez, Grichuk, Moreno, Carroll, who's really scuffling, and Kevin Newman. I think he's hit a couple homers, but I still don't totally buy him. But I think that's the only lineup we have as far as the late stuff. But yeah, we'll talk stacks later on. But you want to give him a tease? Tim, are you on board with the D-backs and the Dodgers? I think that's the highest total, both teams by a significant margin, 10.5 total in that game. Everything else is kind of like 7.5, 8, 7 for the Atlanta Braves are in a game with a 7 total. I know they're outside of Atlanta in Seattle, pitcher's ballpark. Bryce Miller is supposed to be a live arm, but I guess that's not going to be sneaky tonight, is it, Tim? The Diamondbacks and the Dodgers.
No, it's not going to be sneaky at all, but I do think that you're going to have to make a decision because full stacking either one of these teams is going to be pretty hard to do unless you want to double pay down at pitching, which would get you off of Joe Ryan. So lineup construction is going to be kind of interesting tonight. But getting 2 pieces of this game, like if you one off Mookie Betts, that's going to be very, very chalky. Or if you get to a couple of these pieces of this game, that is going to be very, very popular. James Paxton is a shell of his former self. I mean, he's getting no strikeouts. He's got no control. So, I mean, that D-backs team is firmly in play also. I would say, like, if you one off Christian Walker, that would be like a super, super chalky play. That's like a cash game way to do it. I would not recommend doing it that way in GPPs, but I think, Joe Ryan is going to be so popular. It's going to take some of this ownership away from the Dodgers Arizona game.
By the way, I just did a quick Google search, and the roof is expected to be open in Arizona tonight in the desert. I did not see the temperature, but I imagine it's not great. It's probably hot.
I think it's 88, I believe.
They're so cheap. They refuse to turn on some AC. How much does AC cost for a night in Arizona if you close the windows? I have no idea, but I assume that's what's going on there. They're just cheap, but that should be better as far as the hitters. All right, just kind of worth noting. What else? Do hit that like button, chat. Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications, do all those things to help us keep the lights on. We will do the tiers later on in the show. It is Movie Monday also. I'm going to let you guys play along. You're going to play the home version of course, don't officially answer the question. How does Movie Monday work? The people know, but I feel obligated to explain it at least once. You go in the Discord channel. I'm going to give out 5 clues, 5 individual clues, one at a time, every 5, 10, 15 minutes or so, depending on. And once you figure out what movie it is that I'm talking about, by all means, let us know in the Discord or just guess. RotoGrinders.com/Discord live stream chat channel. First person to guess that correctly. Do not spam. You only get 1 guess per clue, and you will win yourself some a week free of RotoGrinders Premium. By the way, there's a way to stack that game and get the pitchers you want. It's just you're not getting the hitters you want because the Dodgers are really, really cheap. They're probably going to get pinch hit for in like the 6th inning, but we don't want to line up just yet. But Kike Enrique Hernandez is really cheap. Pajas is cheap. Chris Taylor is cheap, and they're appropriately priced because they've been pretty well. Pajas has been pretty good, but the rest of them pretty rough. And also the hook. Once Henry comes out, the lefty, who by the way is kind of reverse splitsy, so there's a chance they might start some lefties. The Dodgers. I'm curious what they're going to do as far as that lineup. Both these pitchers historically neutral to reverse splits. It's all right.
I don't mean to cut you off, Dean, but the Diamondbacks aren't showing up with like any ownership at all, which I'm surprised by. I'm surprised by. I figured I figured they'd be pretty popular tonight. So I hope they're not going to be. I just looked at. Go ahead.
I think once the slate kind of opens up, I think people are going to start gravitating towards them. So I can see them getting teamed up.
I'm seeing Marte.
Yeah,
I'm seeing Marte at 2%. I'm seeing Walker at 2%. That seems insane to me. So I guess one-offing Walker is not a cash game way of doing it. I guess that'd be a contrarian way of playing Walker because they're getting no ownership.
So I think in cash you're probably playing Harper over him if you have money for Harper. If you have money for Vlad, you're probably playing Vlad over him. You're probably not playing Ohtani or Freeman, but you certainly can. I don't know if you have the salary for that. Of course, you can throw Ohtani in the outfield as well. But yeah, we'll talk about that as far as the positional stuff. So I think Walker is an incredible tournament play, which we'll kind of dig into. Again, just looking at the positional stuff, a shortstop is loaded like always, and that's the Blaze is leading off, right? And he's a shortstop, but you got Trey Turner, Bobby Witt, De La Cruz, Mookie Betts. Of course, Betts you can play at multiple positions, but yeah, I'm curious to where all that stuff kind of lands. The optimals I ran earlier was spitting out a bunch of twins. For what I don't is that what you're seeing right now, Tim? A lot of twins coming in.
Yeah, I would assume that you're getting to a lot of Ryan and a lot of Freed in optimals, right? So you only have 3,800 per bat, I guess, if you go that combo. So yeah, that would make a ton of sense. We just got some new projections in. I'm going to start running some. I'm going to run some sims also, just to see. We got a new sims update at 4:45, so I'm going to run sims because I ran it like a half an hour ago, but I want to run it again.
Not on the main slate, but I guess I'll pass it along. The Cardinals and the Tigers are postponed, if you're not aware. I think that's one of the 6:35 games in that mini slate. We did get a Cubs lineup. Cubs kind of coming in late because they have a 7 o'clock game. Horner, Tauchman, Happ, Morel, Bush, Swanson, Mervis, Gomes, Crow, Armstrong. And we got the Mariners, Rodriguez, Haniger, Polanco, both catchers, Garver, and Raleigh, France, Moore, Urias, and Haggerty. I don't think Haggerty was projected, but he is in there in the 9-hole. All right. Yeah, we're going to get some later lineups again because there are 5 late games tonight, 5 games starting at least at 9:38 on the East Coast. No Phillies just yet, no Angels just yet, no Reds, no Padres, no Dodgers, no Pirates, no A's, no Braves. Okay. So Tim, if you see anything as far as the Sims, anything that you think is worth noting, worth bringing up, by all means. We did have a Correa coming back for Minnesota as well, who's kind of just a name at this point, but yeah, he's batting in the 2-hole. Jeffers, Correa, Miranda, Buxton, Margot, Santana, Castro, Vasquez, and Farmer facing the lefty Crochet. Julien is on that bench, and I'll tell you, there's a couple of these guys are really fragile when it comes to the hook. Manny Margot is a guy that might get pinch hit for. I'm always on pinch hit alert. But all right, let's talk about the pitchers. We've kind of referenced them a couple times. Well, before we do that, Bobby, give me your screenshot. How we attacking this slate? How many lineups you expect to run out there? What are we looking at right now as far as the overview?
Yeah, I think I'm currently running 18 teams. Probably have a lot of Dodgers, a lot of Diamondbacks. They're going to be low, like Tim said. I'll get to some Braves. That Pittsburgh-Oakland game, I feel like I'm going to have a couple secondary stacks towards Zawinski, Reynolds, maybe some Rooker. And then from there, like pitching's pretty strong up top. Freed, Ryan, Lodolo, I think are all very strong, and there's some good mid-tier options, but I think you could spread it out at pitching. I'll be more condensed in terms of my stacks.
How about yourself, Tim? I feel like it's a 9-gamer, but this slate just feels kind of smaller than a 9-gamer to me. I wonder if you feel the same way.
Yeah, so in cash games, it's extremely easy. It's Joe Ryan and Max Fried. And then in single entries or like larger field, like 3-max or 4-max stuff, I would stick with Ryan, but you can also go, Severino, you could go Boyle, you could go, other Falter even from that same game. So there are different ways of getting different at SP2. I would really get overweight Joe Ryan and then just spread out, your exposures at SP2. But yeah, I agree with you. There's not a lot to like in terms of pitching. Not a lot of guys that I'd be willing to take stands on outside of the chalk. I think Lodolo's a little bit too expensive for given the matchup. He's 9.8. I don't really want to pay that. So it's really Ryan and Freed, and I know they're obvious, but then I guess you could get to guys like Sanchez also. He's 8,400 against the Angels, but I don't really love that. I don't know how Bobby feels about guys like Severino and Sanchez. I don't know. I prefer going lower to Boyle and Falter.
I don't like Boyle. I'm against Boyle currently. For me, I do like Lodolo. I do like Pepe out on the higher end, but Boyle's the one pitcher I think that he's hitting optimals that I'd probably get away from. Maybe to go to Waldron. Who else is in that range currently? Let me just pull it up quickly. Waldron and Falter, I think I'd prefer on the low end over Boyle currently. If you throw Ty on at 7.5 in that mix, I think that's fine. Severino, I think, always has upside. Sanchez, I'd be worried if there was more fly ball guys for the Angels, but there really isn't. They do hit lefties better than righties. Guys like Ward, Trout, obviously, like Rengifo, they would be guys that I'd be willing to play versus. They don't have he's a ground ball pitcher, and they don't have a lot of guys who hit fly balls. That's my only issue. Max Fried, I think, is a very, very strong play versus Seattle. There are the Seattle one-offs occasionally that can tag you a little bit, but I don't know. He's probably my favorite, safest pitcher, I think, on the slate would be Fried. I know Ryan's 10-4. Previously, we'd probably see him at like 12-5 in this matchup. I don't know, man. The White Sox last week, like we right when we started saying they're an all-time terrible lineup, they started hitting the chalk pitchers. So I don't know. I'm fine with Ryan. I'll probably be most overweight to Ryan, but I do think that there are pivots, and you don't necessarily have to lock Ryan in the scenario.
By the way, no Tommy Pham in that lineup today for Chicago, for what it's worth. Lopez, Vaughn, Sheets, Jimenez, Benintendi with a walk-off the other day. Probably the last walk-off of his life, at least from a homer perspective. Mendick, Ortega, DeYoung, and Corey Lee. I wanted to point this one out. Tim, are you playing a lineup on FanDuel today? I know you like to play whenever you're on the show. You'll play a FanDuel lineup for sure. There's one distinct difference over there when it comes to the pitchers, and I'm sure you've noticed this, and saw somebody in chat bring up the name as well. Ryan is 10-9 on FanDuel. Fried is 7-8. I think you're supposed to play Fried in cash.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to play Fried in cash also. I don't think it's really that close. I would play him, and I'm probably going to play him in my single entry team also, and just play all the bats. So yeah, it's pretty easy. Huge price difference. So I would go Fried in cash and in single entry.
King is asking in chat, Severino or Fried. Does that change anything for you? Again, Severino is 1.2K more. He's 9K in between Ryan and Fried. Ownership-wise, you want to play that game, Severino's the better play, right? Because as we have it right now, we got 28% for Ryan and 28% for Fried. And then, they're taking up more than half the field. 6% for Severino, which, by the way, is third because there's a bunch of guys at 5%, basically. Severino, Lodolo, the aforementioned Boyle, Crochet, who's, kind of fallen back. But like Fried versus Severino, again, it's just one of those things. I assume I don't answer the question for you. Fried's the better math play, but Severino might be the better ownership play, right? How would you answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's always an argument to be made when a guy is 4 times higher owns, but I'm still going to stick with Fried. I think it's a good matchup for K's for Fried. Good matchup for a quality start. Good matchup for the win. I know the Cubs lineup is a little bit watered down, but I'm not going to pay $1,200 more for an inferior pitcher in probably a worse matchup, even if there's going to be such a big ownership gap.
If we lose Dean, we are in trouble.
He's muted.
No, I was just on mute for a second. I apologize. Yeah, I was on ultimate.
We'd be fine, Bobby. We'd be fine.
Who's hosting in that scenario?
Oh, definitely me. Okay. Don't worry. Okay.
You're second in command.
As long as we're on the same page, I am not hosting. I am not.
Yeah, I'll host. Don't worry.
Hopefully, we won't have to. It won't come to that. But what was I talking about? Yeah, okay. So Jacob in chat was saying Fried is only played well versus the Marlins and crushed with everybody else. I mean, he the first start of his season was he didn't get out of the first inning because of pitch count, because the ump kind of screwed him. Long story short, I think Fried is fine. I mean, whatever. He scuffled out at the gate. His ERA is 4.97, but his Sierra is 3.67. He's been unfortunate when it comes to left on base at 63%. Should be higher than that. I have no issues with Fried. His fly balls on the season with 13. This is 13% fly balls, 65% ground ball. He's a ground ball machine. The only way you get him basically is if you BABIP him, and it's not a ballpark that gives a bunch of homers anyway. So he gets away with not giving up homers in Atlanta. I suppose he can give up a couple in Seattle, but I think Fried is he's fine. Basically, I took the scenic route, Bobby, but I assume you think Fried is fine. Tell me otherwise.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I mean, you're watching out for Raleigh. You're watching out for Dylan Moore and Ty France. Julio Rodriguez hasn't been great. They bumped him from the 2-hole to the 1-hole, maybe to see more fastballs. But yeah, I'm fine with Fried. Pitcher's ballpark, coming off the complete game shutout versus the Marlins. So I can run some Fried out there for sure. Eric
in chat saying, isn't Fried 40? No, I think you're thinking of Charlie Morton. I'm guessing he's 30. So different guy. That's not who we're talking about. All right, SB2s. I saw somebody asking Christopher Sanchez. He's kind of like my 5th or 6th or 7th favorite amongst the groups. Fried and Ryan is, of course, the obvious pairing on DK. We do live in the world of salary cap, and combining those two, we're looking at $19K. I don't really get the Boyle thing outside of he's cheap. I guess is that why people are playing him, Tim? Just he's kind of cheap and, good ballpark, and Pittsburgh's not terribly, a team we're afraid of. Is that it? The walks is what scares me. It's an unacceptable number so far this season, over 15%.
Yeah, you said Sanchez is 5th or 6th for you?
On my list, yeah. Is that wrong?
I have him a little bit higher. Who do you have between Sanchez and Fried?
All right, I'm going to pull up my rankings. I have Ryan 1, Fried 2. I got Pepio 3, Lodolo 4, Severino 5, and Sanchez 6. Is that wrong? You're taking umbrage?
I'm considering price and kind of like lineup construction. Like I don't really like Lodolo tonight. I don't really like Pepio that much either. So I mean, it's fine to be different, but I mean, I like going on the cheaper end and guys like Falter, guys like Boyle. Yeah, you're right. Boyle does struggle with command, but I think this is a really good matchup for him. So I think if there's a spot at 6.2, I'd take it. I would take that all day in GPPs. I also like Falter quite a bit. So I mean, I need to get to guys in that Dodgers lineup. So
you want to play bets basically. When you're playing Falter, you're playing bets. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, but I mean, I want to get to more premium parts of that Dodgers stack, not just bets. Like I could play just bets with Fried and Ryan. But if I want to play other premium parts of that stack, it's pretty hard to do that. So you need guys like Falter and Boyle, in my opinion. And if you're worried about control, Falter doesn't have quite the same K upside, but he has way better control, and he's also in a very good matchup, and he's the money line favorite. So I think both those guys are firmly in play. I'm just like, I think Lodolo is a good pitcher. I don't particularly love him on the slate when I'm just looking at lineups in Sims, like in optimals.
The Ks are pretty good for Lodolo, on the season. I mean, he's got really electric stuff, history of arm trouble, but they're letting him go a little bit more this year as far as pitch count. We're looking at 28.6% as far as Ks this season, backed up by a 15.2% swinging strike rate, which is the highest on the slate, higher than Ryan, higher than Crochet. And the walks have been good at 5.7%. Facing the Padres, which is kind of a mixed bag, right? There's some tough hitters there, but the lineup is not great, 1 through 9. The issue with Walter is the Ks are not spectacular, but he's got a great matchup and a good ballpark, 17.3% as far as the Ks so far this season. Which is, and Pepio's another guy's, good K stuff. Not sure how much they'll, let him go. Like Tampa's a little bit, they baby their pitchers a little bit more than most teams, but I think he's got a shot at 6-ish. Bobby, your thoughts as far as this next year? Pepio, Severino we didn't talk about, who's been better this year. Good ballpark he's pitching in as well. He was somebody we picked on last season. Looks like he's corrected that for the most part, right? His ERA is down to 2.67, backed up by a 3.61 Sierra. The Ks are fine, not spectacular. The walks are okay, 7.8%. But this next chunk, is there anybody really clearly separating, or is it just you're going to play the ownership game amongst Pepio, Severino, Lodolo, and Christopher Sanchez?
Chris Sanchez probably for the price, just thinking about it. Versus the Angels, like I said, ground ball pitcher. Not many fly ball hitters on this Angels team currently. Neto would be someone I'd be avoiding, Ward, but then after that, the lineup's not the greatest outside of the first three, Trout leading off. So like Christopher Sanchez, Lodolo, like it's in San Diego. San Diego's lineup isn't great either. Like after you get past Machado and Tatis, like I'm not really worried about Xander Bogaerts at this point in his career. Igor Rosario, Azucar, pretty sure that's who they have down at the bottom there. Like Lodolo has great stuff. I'm fine with Lodolo. I'm fine with Pepio versus Milwaukee. Like, I'm not really worried about Milwaukee's lineup. Who's there that really scares you? Jake Bauer is hitting fourth. Like, I think you can spread it out at pitcher tonight. I really do. The guy who would scare me the most in the Milwaukee lineup is Willy Adames. Like, outside of that, there's no one I'm really that concerned with. Contreras, I guess, but there's no one that really stands out. So I think you can kind of basically spread out your pitching tonight. Boyle would be the one guy that I think I'm not going to have much interest in. I think Optimizer is going to push people to Boyle. People are going to try to get there to get up to these Dodgers bats. I would prefer Feltner. Like you said, he's the favorite. He's also minus. He's got juice on the over on his K prop. Like I would just prefer getting to.
What is this K prop? Like 4.5? I haven't looked at it. Getting
to falter. It's nothing great. It's 3.5, but I don't know. Implied team total for this game, both these teams have gone up. So I don't know how much I'm going to have on the low end, and it's probably going to be working more the middle. Chris Sanchez, Severino, like the 9K pitchers. I know that's on the higher end, but just the way I'm kind of going right now. Freed at 8.7.
Lodolo's got a 5.5, 5.5 as far as his K prop. Freed is 5.5. Ryan 6.5. Pepio 5.5, but a lot of juice on the over. You can get it 6.5. Yeah, so like the juice on the over is like 6.5 over plus 120, over 5.5 minus 148. So 6 is kind of the sweet spot, like as far as projections for Pepio Ks. Severino 5.5. Boyle 5.5. Okay, kind of surprising. I thought it'd be a little bit lower. Sanchez juice on the under 5.5. You can get over at about even money. All right, just kind of throwing
Sal Perez has been scratched, just so everyone knows.
Okay, I'm guessing Fermin is going to come in. Is that what's happening?
Yes. Yeah, Fermin is in the lineup now.
Were you on the Royals? I thought they were like kind of an interesting secondary stack. But
yeah, I didn't hate them, but now that really hurts that lineup.
I didn't hate them either. Does that bring into play Ariel Rodriguez at all? You're taking like one of their bigger bats out.
Hasn't he been really like low on pitch count? I think he has.
As far as our projected pitches is 80, which is not very as a median projection. I think that's the lowest. Bryce Wilson getting 78. You know, it's kind of built into the price. He's 7.4 on FanDuel at least.
Yeah. I mean, he's 7K, 80 projected pitches. I guess that's okay. I know that they want him to go back to the bullpen eventually, so they're not going to push him at all. I guess like if I was making 18 like you, I might put him in like 1, maybe possibly 2, but I wouldn't go any more than that.
Yeah.
Is that where you're at as well, Bobby? You're going to kind of figure it out on the fly.
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out on the fly. We just got the Perez news. He wasn't in my pool prior to that. I just put him back in, and I'll consider it. I liked Kansas City tonight for what it's worth. So I don't know, probably bumping them down in terms of like the stack and our tiers.
Trying to see who the chat is throwing out there. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anybody we haven't really talked about pitching-wise. I should throw out the first clue for the movie game. I did tease it earlier.
I've been waiting the entire show. I've been waiting the entire show for that, Dean.
Well, you could have asked. You could have. You're more than welcome. I know you're excited to play. You love
it's your bet. It's your bet, Dean.
All right. So tell me what movie it is. Clue number 1 is it's already on the screen. It's Enclosure. Devin's way ahead of us. Enclosure is clue number 1. And don't really guess out loud, you two, but you can play the home version and let us know in the chat if you kind of figure it out. Again, if you get this first in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord live stream chat channel, you will get yourself a week free. A week free of RotoGrinders Premium. What is RotoGrinders Premium? Well, it's NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, MLB. And if you don't happen to win, you have the bells, the whistles, everything that Devin's showing off on the screen as well. You get the projections and the ownership and people like their umpire data, the plate IQ that it was free last year, and now we're putting it behind the paywall. How dare us Well, you can get all that if you just let me know what movie this is, or what you can do, which you can pay for it. You can get yourself a 6-month sub. If you want to commit the 6 months, you get for $250 off, as opposed to going month by month. It'll be $469.99. If you just want to commit to a month, you can get $40 off for a limited time as well. All this stuff, the links are in the description. And if you just want to commit to 3 days, get yourself a 3-day trial, dip your toes in the water. It's $19.99. Again, check out those links. Tim was talking about the Sims. You guys are not aware of SimLabs. It's the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RG and Fantasy Labs, now available for basketball, for golf, and of course, baseball as well. Just a few clicks, hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest type you're playing, single entry, large field stuff. You want to build lineups to be as ambitious as you want to be. You want to build lineups with a certain stack. You can just kind of, build hundreds and go through them and say, well, you can say, well, I'm just going to take all those. You can do that if you want. Or you can go through them individually and say, yes, that's in the yes box, that's in the no box, throw that one away, keep that one, and you can do it that way as well. Again, check out the links in the description for all this. Did we get a winner by chance? Was there any hole-in-ones? Did somebody bink it? I'm guessing not. Maybe we can drop a second clue. I'm in the live stream chat channel now. It is not Biodome or Fight Club or Ace Ventura Pet Detective or Panic Room, but I am enjoying these guesses.
Those are good guesses.
They are some good guesses. Better than your guesses. You guys got nothing. You wrote nothing.
Good guesses for the fact that you're being a nit with the clues again, like enclosure. How am I supposed to figure anything out with that as a clue?
You got to string the game. You got to string the game along. Let's say somebody binks it in the first one, and then what? Everybody else is just sitting with their hands in their pockets, waiting to play the game. The game's already over.
Yeah, I once again, I think you're doing the chat dirty again, Dean. Here.
No, you got to earn it. Is the point? You can't just be given a week free of RG Premium. It is not Phone Booth or Seabiscuit either. Phone Booth is a great guess, but it's not Phone Booth. All right. Well, let's drop the second clue. Let's drop the second, because I am a man of the people, and I want somebody in chat to get it. First clue is enclosure. Second clue is virus. Enclosure and virus. Now you guys know it for sure, but just don't say it out loud, because we don't want to ruin the game for the people. I did also notice somebody in the live stream chat channel was asking about Tyon. Anybody have a Tyon take?
I like Tyon, but I feel like I'm pretty much all over the place with who I like in terms of pitching currently. If I had to say, like, he's going against the Mets, is he reverse splitsy? What's the deal with Tyon? Is he reverse splitsy, or?
I don't think so.
You want to attack lefties hit Tyon pretty much? They don't really have.
Off the top of my head, I feel like he doesn't have a huge split, but this is something we can check.
He's average splits.
He's
nothing. Yeah.
I don't know. He's in my pool, but he's just in my pool because he's facing the Mets. That's the best analysis I have.
We do have a winner, by the way. Some people put the answer in the YouTube, and that doesn't count. So nice try, good effort. But somebody actually followed the rules. Very easy rules to follow. And Bobby, you were not a man of the people. We got it on 2, Bobby. We got it on 2. We will play it out just for funsies. But we did get a winner in chat, and perfect name, Sharp 202. Looks like the first person to get it. Producer Devin will hit you up in the Discord and juice you up with a week free of RG Premium. But yeah, we'll play it out. Unfortunately, Thomas, you're just a little bit late on it, but nicely done there. And we will continue. Do you guys know what it is, or no? I'm guessing you don't. Or have you peeked the live stream chat channel?
No idea.
You're gonna love it, Bobby. You're gonna love it. All right. So, did we get an official take as far as Tyon? I apologize. I was distracted by the I can only do one thing at once apparently. You were just asking about his splits, but are you actually playing him or no?
He's in my pool because he's playing the Mets, and I'm building lineups for 300 and then going to eye out 18 of them. So I don't know. Tim, you can break down Tyon. I have no breakdown outside of the Mets situation.
Yeah, I don't mind your take that, he's playing against the Mets. He's 7,500. I don't hate Tyon. I just think you can get a similar fantasy point production for cheaper. So for that reason, I'd rather go Boyle. I'd rather go Falter guys like that over Tyon. But I have no real issue with Tyon. But he's got average splits. It's a decent matchup, and he's reasonably priced. But I prefer going down lower. If you're gonna go low, I'd go lower.
Got a couple more lineups. Padres, Profar, Tatis, Cronenworth, Machado, Bogarts, Kim, Rosario, Ozakar, and the backup catcher, Higashioka. Got the Braves as well. Atlanta in Seattle, Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olsen, Ozuna, Arcia, Harris, Darno, and Kelnick. Pretty standard. That is their standard lineup when facing a righty. Candace saying I'm being an a-hole on purpose. What did I do wrong?
Wow.
I don't know what I did. Oh, I never know. But
Chad is revolting, Dean.
Well, you know who's
His
not
clues
revolting?
are too tough. His clues are too tough.
It only took 2 words. Literally, someone knew the movie in 2 words.
What was the movie?
We're still playing along. We're just going through the motions now. But it took two words. Why is it too tough? Maybe it's tough for you, but not everybody else.
I feel like it's
and Sharp is not upset because Sharp got a week free of RG Premium. And the clue number 3, by the way, Bobby, we'll just throw it out for the people. Sure, why not? We're just playing out the string. Clue number 3 is Bunny. Bunny is clue number 3. So it's enclosure, virus, and bunny. Those are our clues.
I know what it is now.
Now you know it, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think this is the second one I've gotten all year.
And there's a reason, Tim. There's a reason why I picked this. Of course, you understand why, right? We'll talk about it.
I do.
Soon enough.
I do. Yep.
Yeah, there's always a reason why. It's not just some random movie pulled out of a hat. But we're gonna get the stacks in a second as well. Anything else we should say as far as pitchers? Anybody we missed? Anybody worth talking about? Anybody we should kind of bring home for the people? But let's see. I think we're kind of good as far as pitchers. It's pretty straightforward, Tim. Anything you want to add? If somebody just joined like 3 minutes ago, what should we tell them as far as pitchers tonight?
I mean, if you're playing cash games, it's easily Joe Ryan and Max Fried. It's Max Fried on FanDuel, in my opinion, also. And then I'm going to go possibly lower, either double pay down or go Ryan and pay down for guys like Bailey Falter or Joe Boyle. Those would be my 2 favorite punt options. And then in the mid-range, like somebody who's like, around 8K, I think Christopher Sanchez is my favorite, followed by Luis Severino.
Anything you want to add there, Bobby?
Can I throw one pitcher in the mix?
Please.
Matt Waldron. Reds not hitting the ball on the road, striking out at a very high clip. Almost 40% on the road for Ks for the Reds, and it's a pitcher's ballpark. I think you can play this both sides, play some Matt Waldron, play some Cincy bats, but yeah, I like Waldron a little bit. He'd probably be, in terms of pitchers that are going to be priced down on the slate, he would be probably I'm going to say my favorite, actually. I don't like going all the way to the bottom tonight.
You said the Reds have struck out 40% of the time on the road this season. How many games could they have played for that number? That's an outrageous number.
Yeah, I don't know the sample size, Dean, but like I said, they've been worse outside of Great American Small Park. So, yeah, I like Waldron.
Is it like 10 games or something? I can't imagine.
Enough
they
games
have played. Say it again.
Enough games for me.
They played 12 games on the road so far this year, 16 at home. It is obviously a downgrade. Waldron, I never really know how to give analysis on him just because the knuckleball, he doesn't throw it all the time, but he throws it enough. It's in the mix, like around 40% or so. The Ks have not been great, 20% this season, not horrendous, and pretty decent control, especially considering he's a knuckleballer. 8.9% walks, not terrible. Is he really cheap? He's got to be really cheap, right, Bobby? Like in the 6s or 7s?
Currently, yeah, he's like 7K, I think. No, he's 6'8". So he's right in that Falter Boyle range, 6'8". I like Waldron as a pivot off those low guys.
I think we should mention Crochet as well. Should we at least acknowledge?
We're just mentioning everyone at this point for this pitching slate. I feel like we've hit on it. He's getting a ton of righties. You're fine with Crochet there?
I just think he's got a big variance of potential outcomes, right? There's a lot of strikeouts in the back end of the Minnesota lineup, and we've seen him throw, he's showed strikeout stuff. in a small sample. I mean, he's got a 32% K rate on the season, right? The walks have been good too at 6.4%. I know the ERA is bad, but the Sierra says he's been super unlucky. Left on base percentage is 55%, which is outrageously unlucky. 4% barrel rate's fine. And again, if Minnesota is going to be popular to some extent just because they're cheap, what's up?
How's his barrel rate to right-handed batters?
Oh, now you're asking some really specific questions. That's got to be in the we got to be able to find this in the old Plate IQ. I got it here. Barrel rate versus lefties 0%. Barrel percentage versus righties 4.5%. Both good.
Okay. So I guess,
and we're seeing a slew of righties, right? Are we seeing 9 righties? I think it's 9, right? Yeah, all righties for Minnesota. I'm just saying, like, it could be a complete disaster. But if we're just shooting for upside, I think he's got a better chance of having the biggest score on the slate than Rodriguez, than Falter. Like, as far as the biggest score, now he probably has got a better chance of having a lower score too. But if we're shooting for first, if we're going Ricky Bobby style, I think he should at least be in the mix. Did you have a take on him, Tim, or you didn't mention him? I don't think.
He wouldn't get into my pool if I was making, I don't know, 8 or 9, 10 teams. I like, guys like Severino and Sanchez in that price range more, so he would get squeezed out of my pool. But I don't disagree that he does have a wide range of outcomes, which we like in GPPs.
Two times, everybody.
Wow. Well, that was a mega mute.
Devin scared me, man. He just popped up out of nowhere. He was all over that. He was waiting for that.
I had time to unmute myself. I had time to gather my thoughts, scramble it. No, Dean, come on. Amateur hour.
I got the coughs over here, unfortunately. Yeah, so clue number 4. If you're playing out the string or playing the home version. Bobby, I want you to get this, Bobby. Enclosure, virus, bunny, Las Vegas.
I'm not getting this correct. I still don't even have a clue. Still don't have a clue.
You'd rather just like complain that the clues are too hard than like try and get it right.
I am trying to get it right. I don't understand the clues. I have no idea.
Well, Tim understood them. Have you read the chat at all? Because it's been popping up in the chat the entire time. Just for the.
I've read Broccoli Boy trolling me for the last 35 minutes, but yeah.
Yeah, that's Tim's guy. Take it up with Tim. So, all right, let's talk stacks.
You can block him, Bobby. I've done it before.
No, I don't block people. All
right.
As a general rule, that's it. It's
a general rule. I've never blocked anyone. There's no reason to do that.
You're like the Cal Ripken of not blocking.
Exactly. I'm a man of the people, Dean. You got to be able to take criticism,
Yeah, no, sure. That's a good rule. I think I've blocked 10 people in total, like ever on Twitter. I was looking at it one day and like, I think that's pretty good for a 10-year run.
And Broccoli was one of them, Dean.
He was, because it turned out it was Broccoli Boy. I didn't know he was the Broccoli Boy, but it turned out it was Broccoli. So that's a badge of honor. He must have really said something that got me. He must have got me at a wrong moment or something. But I try to be like Bobby, where I just I stick to that policy. Anyways, all right, stacks. Gonna talk stacks. Bobby, you did our stacks today. You did our category.
Yep.
Did you want to tell the people what you ranked?
So yeah, it's my favorite actress, Sydney Sweeney. We ranked her performances in some of her feature films, and we have Euphoria, Anyone But You, White Lotus, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, best movie on the list, but she only had a small role, so that's 4th. And Madam Web, which I haven't seen, but I've heard the reviews are terrible, so that's 5th.
TJ's hanging out in chat. A couple things with TJ. He said he'll block anybody over anything. So I'll take the over on whatever TJ's blocked, whatever his over-under is. And secondly, TJ, who's like the biggest stand for anything Marvel or whatever I think that's in the Marvel world, Avengers universe. I don't even think TJ can defend Madam Web, just kind of looking at the reviews on it. And I think even what's her name? What's this actress's name again? I forget. Sydney Sweeney owned it on SNL, was about how terrible the movie was. So I don't think everybody just wants to forget it happened. Apparently, it was a complete and absolute disaster. I did not see it personally. I know the kids love Euphoria, the HBO show. Have you watched Euphoria, Bobby, or you just kind of gave it the number one spot because you know it's popular?
No, I've watched it. She was fantastic. It took me the longest time to actually watch it, and then my girlfriend was rewatching it.
Yeah,
and I watched it with her, and I liked it. So yeah, good movie. Good show. Good show. So I put that at number one.
And part of my movie prep today is I did watch Anyone But You before the show.
Right? Was it good?
It's your standard, run of the mill
rom-com.
It's fine. You're a big rom-com guy, which you're okay.
I am a big rom-com guy. Yep, for sure.
It's fine. It's not horrendous. So put that in the back of the DVD. If people still buy DVDs, you can put that quote there. Not horrendous. It's perfectly fine. Perfectly cromulent. But yeah, it was okay. White Lotus, I think I would put higher, but that's just me. Spectacular series on HBO. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You said it was a great show, movie.
Great movie. But
she's barely even in it.
She's barely in it. Yeah.
Chris Taylor not in the Dodgers lineup, but Max Muncy is left on left. Pretty interesting because he is facing a reverse splits lefty. Muncy's probably the sneaky one. Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, Teoscar, Muncy, Hernandez, Pajas, and Rojas. There are your Dodgers tonight. So one less cheapie with Taylor being out for what it's worth. But all right, we're going to power rank the stacks in just a second. Chat, let us know what should be number one, what shouldn't be number one. If you have any, you didn't give your take, Tim. Are you aware of Sydney Sweeney's work? Are you aware of her existence?
I actually don't really know who that is, and I've never seen any of these shows or movies. So
I would say maybe producer Devin can throw a picture of her up on the screen, but he's got to be selective. He's got to be cautious with what he's going to throw up in there. He's got to be cautious. I don't know what's going to pop up in Google Images.
Yeah, we're going to leave this up to the viewers here. Yeah.
Yeah. Shannon says she has two amazing assets, so I know what that means. So.
All right. Yeah, feel free to Google or Bing on your own. Chat, let us know your top stacks as well. We can do this pretty quickly as far as ranking our stacks. We'll kind of go game by game with it. Tim, I'll let you go first. We have most of the lineups as well, but let's, obviously, Bobby, you can jump in and disagree. Kansas City, we lost Sal Perez. Toronto, we lost Bichette. Bichette never even in the starting lineup there. So a little bit of a weekend version of the Blue Jays. Two of the better hitters in that game, 8.5 total still, it looks like. Where would you put Kansas City and Toronto, Tim?
I would put Toronto, probably White Lotus. And then I'd probably go Kansas City, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, so right in the middle for Toronto, Kansas City a little bit lower. That's probably where I have them as well. Bobby, you disagree or no?
No, I agree. That's perfect.
All right. And are you taking any stands one way or the other on those teams? Or that's where they are and that's that?
KC dropped down for me. I probably would have had Anyone But You for KC, but taking Perez out, I think, affects it enough to where they're fine at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Dean.
Yeah. Bobby, Chicago and the Mets, 7.5 total. Taillon versus Severino, bad ballpark. I know you're big on ballparks. Just hard to get a bunch of runs in New York, the way that ballpark is built. There is some power guys, obviously. JD Martinez back in that lineup for the Mets. Vientos has also cracked it as well. No DJ Stewart for the Mets today. But I think this game's going to be mostly ignored. Where would you put Chicago, the Cubs, that is, and the Mets?
We get some Madam Web for both.
Ooh, dead last.
Maybe I should consider Taillon more.
Tim, are you okay with throwing them in the cellar?
I would put Mets in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and then I would put them both in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Not quite the cellar, but they're definitely down there for me.
Yeah, there's some power guys there. I don't know if I'm going to fully stack. I'm pretty certain I'm not going to fully stack, but you can one-off get some guys.
Yeah, I don't want to stack of either one of these teams, but I think there's enough power on both. But now that I'm looking at that Cubs lineup, and it looks pretty ugly.
You like Severino a little bit more?
I don't know. I don't want to pitch Severino really. If he's not really cheap anymore. He was like in the 6s and 7s earlier in the year. Now he's above 8. I don't really like that too much.
I'm just seeing now we got a fire emoji in Baltimore. That's kind of a bummer. It's 88 degrees in Baltimore today.
Yeah.
I guess it's heating up in some spots. It's a bummer that it's not on the slate. But it's exciting to see actual like heat when it comes to hitting baseballs. Bobby, you know how you like your samples, right? You like your small samples. Have you seen Weather Edge with the Mets?
I have not. I'll check it now, though. I think I should.
I'll tell you.
Right?
I can tell you what it is. It's a 5-gamer, just a 5-game sample. Which to me, I throw that out. That's nonsense. But 5 similar games with similar weather. 68 degrees is the temperature. Winds blowing out 14 miles per hour to left center. We've seen a spike in home runs at 43%.
I'm in on the Western Cubs. We're moving them up.
But a negative as far as runs. Again, this is what happens to a 5-game sample. There's more homers and less runs.
Yeah, I can play them as one-offs or single stack or secondary stacks. Once upon a time in Hollywood is fine, Dean, I think.
Yeah, I think me and Bobby, it's a democracy. Sometimes Devin will step in it as well, but I think we got 2-1 there. We both got Chicago and the Mets in that 4th tier. Tim, knock out the Rays and the Brewers.
Not really teams that I had my eye on, really, but I think Brewers have got to be pretty darn close to the bottom. I'd say either Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Madam Web. I'm not really interested in the Brewers. I don't want to pitch Pepio, but I don't want to attack against them either. And then the Rays, I mean, I don't know. That lineup does not look great today. I would put them in the White Lotus category.
I said this before in our previous show. I was like, I don't know how to stack the Rays. Not all runs are created equal. Like they might score 7 runs, someone else might score 7 runs, but they're probably not hitting a bunch of homers. Like another team could hit 3 homers, and that's good enough. But there is some power there, right, Tim? Like, Palacios has some power, 223 ISO versus righties. Paredes, 266. Shenton, 250. So, I mean, that's a small sample for Shenton, but a Rosarena, the power is not spectacular, but it's okay. Sure. Diaz, not a lot of power leading off. And Siri at the bottom of the line is 260 ISO, which is a pretty big number as well. But and the ballpark jump there in Milwaukee is pretty significant too. A Milwaukee bullpen, by the way, that's kind of beat up. The Yankees annihilated them this weekend, dropped like a 40 spot on them. On 2 different games, 2 of the 3 games, they had a shortstop or like who was the guy that the first baseman, I think, was closing out the game the other day, just kind of saving the arms there in that pen. Where are you at, Bobby, as far as Tampa and the Brewers?
Yeah, Brewers at the bottom is fine. White Lotus for the Rays is okay. Like it's more like one-offs for the Rays bats. That ballpark's good for hitting. They're tough to stack, as we've seen as when they've been chalk last week. You just play the Yankees, and hopefully other people decided to play the Rays. I think those 2 rankings are fine for those 2 teams.
See, you're being told Brewers are supposed to be the White Lotus category according to Monty. So I don't think so. I mean, I don't know if I put them in Madam Web. That's pretty brutal, but we're keeping those where they're at, Bobby. We're good with as far as Rays, Brewers. You want to move them out?
Nah, they're good.
Okay. Minnesota versus the White Sox. Crochet versus Joe Ryan. I'll let you set these 7.5 as far as the total. Minnesota, pretty significant favorite, -164. Locked in for 9 in Chicago. We got Carlos Correa back. Get excited. But, where are you putting the Twins and the hapless White Sox? Go for it, Bobby.
White Sox every night in the lowest tier. Offense is abysmal. White Lotus for Minnesota. I think you can stack the Twins, but Stevie mentioned this on the morning grind. Like when you do stack the Twins, usually Buxton's going to be the chalkiest. Maybe leaving Buxton off is probably your best option. I just think Buxton to me is like someone, he's a superstar in name only. I don't know. That's kind of where I'd put them. Tim, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, Don Easy made a good point in chat. Twins are popping hard in Sims. They're by far the most exposed team I got in Sims. So I don't think they're going to be that. I don't think they're going to be super, super chalky because I think some people have a little bit of fear of Crochet. But I don't mind your take about leaving Buxton off. but I like the Twins quite a bit. They'd be my anyone but you category.
I wanted to check see what the bat says as far as pinch hit risk. I bet you a couple of these guys are in some trouble spots. So yeah, this is the bat do support Derek Carty, and the bat Margot pinch hit risk 66%. I'm telling you, like I bet under on his hits. I got it like a 2-1 earlier in the day. Always excited to get. It's always fun to root for like just don't hit the ball, and sometimes I'll bet no hits and no strikeouts, and you split it. You go 1-1, and you win because you're getting positive juice on both. I think there's a pretty decent chance he only gets 3 at bats. Pretty decent chance Julien comes in for him at some point, and also Farmers a 50% pinch hit risk as well. When they're starting against lefties, they're rolling out 9 righties. I think Jeffers is in there. I'm trying to think who else. Larnack is on the bench for Minnesota. There are some guys that the situation calls for it. Certainly that they can get taken out of the game. Miranda's another guy that potentially can get the hook. Farmer is a guy that can only get 2 at bats, batting in the 9 hole. Like there's a real chance that he's super cheap, and it's kind of baked in. But just understand what you're getting into as far as Minnesota, Chicago. Tim, we're moving on to Philadelphia and the Angels. Where do you got Philadelphia and the Angels? We haven't talked about Philly a ton yet, but Canning has been a disaster this year. Negative ballpark chip for Philly, but of course they're locked in for 9. No starting lineup just yet, but I would imagine, Schwarber, Turner, Harper, all the guys you want are probably going to be in there. Where do you have the Phillies? I think this is one of the live offenses tonight. Phillies and Angels. What do you got, Tim?
Yeah, I think they've got to be either in your euphoria or your anyone but you category. They are definitely a top selection this evening. The problem I have is that I do like the Dodgers quite a bit more, and I also like the Diamondbacks more. So maybe I put them in the anyone but you category, but I could be way off. So Canning's been atrocious this year, but it like you said, Dean, it is a negative ballpark shift. So I think I put them in the anyone but you category.
Bobby?
Anyone but you for me, Dean. That's how I'd go in terms of the Phillies. Like he said, negative ballpark shift. I like Schwarber. I like Harper. But, yeah, they're obviously not in the tier of the Dodgers. I also like Arizona. So, yeah, they're going to have to come in the second tier there.
You guys aren't arguing enough. I feel like we're not you can't just agree on everything. It's got to happen organically. But
we're both looking at the same stuff, I would imagine. So.
Well, we disagreed on the Twins. I feel like I was much higher on the Twins than Bobby was.
Well, yeah, Dean made a good point. Like, where's Margot batting? Is he like third still? Fifth? Yeah. He's likely gonna be pinch hit for. Buxton's stinks.
I'm just pointing out that we just disagreed on the last team.
I was looking at Buxton's Savant page, and ex-WOBA in the 5th percentile, ex-slug in the 11th percentile. Average exit velocity is 61st percentile, but barrel of the 34th percentile. He's not been great, basically, from a analytical standpoint this year. It's not been that impressive. And kind of to Bobby's point, he thinks Buxton's just a stud in name only. Maybe all the injuries have compiled, and he's just not as good as he once was. Obviously, he used to be spectacular. Okay. We got a couple lineups, but I just kind of sprinkled in on through. The Reds: Benson, De La Cruz, Steer, Fraley, India, Martini, Candelario, Espinal, Male. So no Stevenson catching. It's Male doing the catching there. We got the Angels: Trout leading off, Adele to the 2 spot. There you go. That's kind of a move. Ward, there's not many options. They're all bad afterwards, basically. Ward's pretty good. Drury, Rengifo, Ohapi, Tucker, Adrianza, and Neto. All right. Who's Cole Tucker? Okay. All right. Is Cole Tucker still dating Vanessa Hutchins? Wasn't that a thing at one point? Didn't that happen? I'm making that up. Bobby, you know this kind of stuff. You read those magazines.
I don't even know who that is.
Why do you say that? I don't even know who these people are.
Tim's laugh, his little silent laugh, was just so cathartic to hear in that moment.
I think, what am I making this up? Is Vanessa Hutchins like a singer or something? Maybe an actress?
Alan Lem says that they are married, Dean. Come on now.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I did not get the invite.
And she's pregnant, supposedly.
Oh, well, congratulations.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So like, you're like 4 steps behind.
I've got chat chat's asking me to get Philly to bump up to Euphoria. Same with the Brew Crew.
Well, we haven't. Wait, when did we talk about Philly? Philly. Okay.
How's the Brew Crew getting up to Euphoria?
We're getting slammed in the chat over Milwaukee. Yeah.
I don't know if they said Euphoria. They said Euphoria for Phillies, but Brew Crew needs to be brought up, is what they said. So let me stir the pot a little bit and then just push you guys back out into it.
If you want to put the Brewers to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I guess maybe. Like they're not the. I mean, they are catching the stench of the White Sox. They're not as bad as the White Sox, but there's only 5 tiers, right? But I mean, to move them up any higher than that, or we can just keep more where they're at. I'm fine. What do you think here, Tim?
I think at best, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
There's no way I'm pushing them to Euphoria.
That's an outrageous.
No chance. No chance.
Yeah, if you want to go Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that's fine. Yeah, but
if you want to put, I think the Phillies aren't crazy to put at the top tier. They can definitely be the top team, but I'm not going to argue with you guys.
You think the Phillies are on the same level as the Dodgers tonight?
No, but like they're in the conversation. They're probably they're on the podium. They're getting the bronze.
Tier there. That's the conversation. They're just not in tier 1.
Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of the conversation we're having. I'm looking at my rankings. I think I put him 3rd. I just want to confirm because I could have changed this. Yeah, I have him 3rd for the record. I mean, I think it's pretty clear who 1 and 2 are. We kind of already alluded to that earlier in the show. But I got him 3. But you can only have 2 teams in the top tier if you want, Bobby. That's fine.
No Real Muto for the Phillies. The lineup.
Oh, that cements it.
Yeah.
That cements it.
That cements it. So there we go. Anyone but you.
There we go. Yep.
Rest of the lineup looks pretty standard, right? Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Baum, Marsh, Castellanos, Stotts, Tots, and Rojas and Stubbs, he's cheap, but he stinks. Okay. I don't know whose turn it is, but let's see. We knocked out Cincinnati. We did the Padres, right? Did we do the gutless Padres? No. Oh, we just did the Cincinnati lineup. We got to do the Cincinnati and San Diego now.
I was going to say, I did the lineup Cincinnati.
Yeah, that's my bad. I know the lineup. I know I read it off, but we didn't really talk about it as far as where we're putting him on the board. I'm going to throw it to Bobby because Bobby really seemed to poo-poo the Reds. Those home road splits he's big on, and then the Padres, who I'm told allegedly are gutless. Maybe
they're both Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for me.
Yeah,
I think you could put the Reds in White Lotus just because of the upside. Like it's a variant situation with Waldron. Waldron could be good, or the Reds could be good. I don't know. Either way, Reds are fine in White Lotus, but definitely the Padres for me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Tim?
Yeah, I would go Reds, White Lotus. I would go Padres, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I don't mind Lodolo as a pitcher. I just don't really like his price that much. That's why I'm not rostering him.
We got the Pirates. It's Hayes, Reynolds, Cruz, McCutcheon, Sawinski, Triolo, Tellez, Bart, and Taylor. I believe it's Michael A. Taylor. By the way, we never finished. We got a winner, of course, for our game, for the movie game. We should knock that out for the people that are still playing along. Enclosure was the first word. Virus, Bunny, Las Vegas, and the last one. A lot of people answered in chat too, but if you need some closure, criminals. And Bobby needs some closure for sure, but he still doesn't know it. Enclosure, Virus, Bunny, Las Vegas, Bobby, criminals. Bobby, you were going to power rank the person starring.
What movie is that? I have no idea. I've never even seen it.
You were going to power rank. You were originally going to power rank this actor's movies, and he's starring in this movie.
Nick Cage.
Okay. Now we'll go with that. We'll talk it out.
The Rock?
Well, no, you can't just fire off. Look at the clues. Enclosure, Virus, Bunny, Las Vegas, criminals.
I don't know.
Is there any movie you can think of Nick Cage?
You really don't know? You really don't know?
Don't feel bad, Bobby. I was firing off Gone in 60 Seconds in pre-show.
What is it?
Don't feel bad.
But Bobby's a Nick Cage truther.
Yeah, this is his wheelhouse.
What I said was
his wheelhouse.
I've seen a Nick Cage movie that I couldn't watch all the way through.
Well, apparently you missed the final scene in Con Air when they landed in Las Vegas.
Okay. Con Air. There you go.
Con Air. All right. Give me back my bunny. All right. I can't do the accent, the terrible Nick Cage accent in that movie. But yeah, a lot of people in chat. TJ in chat says, I'm seriously questioning Bobby's Nick Cage fandom.
I
think it's just
am
a bit.
also. I don't know. Yeah, it could be a bit, Dean. You're right.
He's a big Snake Eyes guy. So that's what's going on here.
I am. I like the movie Snake Eyes.
It's underrated, actually. I'll tell you his most underrated movie. You want to know it? Matchstick Men. It's pretty good. What is it? The War one too was pretty good. We don't have time to get in this.
Yeah, everyone thinks Dean's clues are brutal. I don't know. I should have knew Con Air, I guess.
All right. Well, look, a lot of people got it, is all I'm saying. I'll point to the scoreboard. The next teams are the Dodgers, the D-backs, Betts, Ohtani, Freeman, Smith, Teoscar, Muncy, Enrique Hernandez, Pajas, Rojas. Arizona pretty standard with Blaze leading off. Blaze, Gurriel, Marte, Walker, Suarez, Grichuk, Moreno, Carroll, Newman, 8 righties. Paxton has been reverse split seat. Yes, Lord of War. Thank you, Hoosier, in chat. Tim, I'll give you the honors. Dodgers, Diamondbacks.
Dodgers are 100% euphoria. Diamondbacks for me are probably anyone but you. I'm really surprised. I got 0 Diamondbacks in Sims, which I'm just
that's weird.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed, and they're not showing up in optimals either. So, but the bat does have them ranked number 4 in raw point stack. So the bat's pretty high on them. I'm pretty high on the D-backs, and I love that ownership on them. So they're going to be very, very low owned.
I know, Bobby, you love your small samples. James Paxton in 20 innings this year, 20 2/3, if you want to get all technical and precise. He's got a 2.61 ERA, so he must be pitching great, right? 2.61 ERA, it's spectacular. However, left on base percentage is 89%. That is goofy. His BABIP is 220. That is super goofy. His strikeouts are 12.4%. That is horrendous. And his walks are 19.1%. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. You got to be out of the league if you keep doing that. Add it all up, Bobby, and it's a Sierra of 6.93. Do you ever see an ERA of 2.61 and a Sierra of 6.93? Pretty much never. That's the difference between ERA and Sierra is over 4 runs. That is dramatic. Again, it's small sample stuff, but that's why I love Arizona today. A roof also opened today. What do you got here, Bobby? Dodgers and Arizona. I'm tilted that Tim did not put Arizona also in the 1 spot, but that's fine. This is a democracy. Where do you have these 2 teams here? Dodgers and D-backs.
Dodgers number 1 easily. Probably have one of the main Dodgers on every one of my teams, I would imagine. And Arizona would be 1B, so put them up in the euphoria slot there. Yep. The only thing I do worry about, like Gurriel doesn't look great versus Paxton's pitch mix, and then Carroll's been absolutely brutal, but everyone else in the D-backs looks fine. So yeah, Dodgers 1A, get up to Betts, Ohtani, all those guys, Freeman, and then the Diamondbacks 1B.
All right, 4 more teams to throw on the board. We got TJ hanging out in chat, Spidey as well. Spidey bombs incoming at 100 likes. Do hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications so you know when we go live. We got Tim's taters. We got Bobby's bombs, Dean's dongs. We'll fire off some homers as well for the people. Just keep hitting that like button. Crunch time coming in about 5-10 minutes, depending on. You got a Dave Potts, CheeseIsGood. You got Justin Van Zuiden. You know him better as STL Cards. And, of course, Kevin Roth, Chief Mineralogist. I don't think there's anything really concerning weather-wise. I'll go ahead and take a peek and see if Roth has updated anything. But last I saw, green, yellow for the White Sox. A few showers possible. I doubt it's heavy enough for a delay. So as we're seeing, also green, yellow for the Mets. A few spotty showers zipping by. A delay or a late start wouldn't shock me. But as of right now, I think the likely outcome is 9 innings without any in-game stoppages. All right, 4 more games, 4 more teams to rank and throw on the board. Bobby, I'm going to you, Pittsburgh and Oakland.
Yeah, White Lotus for both. Implied team total moved up. Really like Zawinski. Really like Reynolds. O'Neal Cruz is good for the Pirates. And then on the Oakland Athletics, I like Rooker, Story Ruiz, who Dean hates.
That's your guy.
It's my guy. He steals bases. He's good. And everyone thinks he stinks, but he's good. Definitely good for DK scoring. Be more secondary stacks for both of these teams. So White Lotus is fine.
All right. Tim, Are we fighting here?
I would put them lower. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for me for both of them.
Same.
I'm higher. I'm higher on these pitchers than Bobby is.
So are the projections. But I'm gonna take my shot. Some of these bats.
Braves, Seattle. That is our hammer. It's a dual-pronged hammer. Actually, it's a quad-pronged hammer. There are 4 games at exactly 9:40 as far as first pitch, and 1 game at 9:38. So essentially, those 5 games start at the same time. More than half the slate starting at 9:38. Devin, are you going to call me out on a quad-pronged hammer? What do you got?
It's called a fork, Dean.
It's not a spork.
It's not a quad pronged hammer, Dean.
It's a fork, isn't it? That's yeah. If it was 3, it's a trident, right? Is that how that works?
You nailed it. You nailed it. Yep, you got it.
Yeah. Speaking of, if you ever see Seattle hit a home run, that's their home run celebration. They pull an anchor man and walk around with a trident. They don't throw it at anybody, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess. Unfortunately, an anchor man. Things escalated quickly, but the Braves and the Mariners. What do you got here, Tim? Let's knock out these last 2 games. Let's give out some homers. Let's give out some taters. We got some Spidey bombs. Hit that like button.
I'd go Atlanta, White Lotus, just because some of the power lefties could hit Bryce Miller, and it's really strong offense. Seattle is Madab Webb for me.
All right, Bobby, what do you got?
Atlanta, anyone but you. I like Albies, like Olsen. I know Bryce Miller's good, but
I agree with you. Move him up.
Kelenic. It's revenge for Kelenic.
It is.
So yeah, move him up. Put him in anyone but you. Seattle's. I would
Devin,
say,
Atlanta, and anyone but you.
Yeah, I got confused there when I seen.
Yeah, no worries.
Seattle could be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just because I think there's some one-off bats, but like Cal Raleigh, I guess that you could consider. But yeah, I would put Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for Seattle.
Here's our full board. If you have any issues, any questions, any complaints, let us know in chat. The Euphoria category, it's our top tier, is Dodgers, Arizona. Anyone but you, just 2 teams, Philadelphia and Atlanta, White Lotus, Toronto, Tampa, Minnesota, Cincinnati, kind of right in the middle, a little bit worse in the middle, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Spectacular movie, not a big acting role. Kansas City, the Mets, the Cubbies, the Brewers, the Padres, I was going to say Steelers, that's the Pirates, the Athletics, and of course at the bottom, the White Sox just keep them there at all times, essentially. They're hanging out with Madam Webb and the Mariners. Bobby, somebody asked in chat, I think it was Broccoli Boy, is there one hitter you're going to have more than anybody else on this slate? I don't do things that way, but
yeah,
is somebody standing out for like that?
Right? Like it's going to be bats for me, but I would say that if he's talking about like a one-off batter that wouldn't be in a stack, I like Brian Reynolds or Jack Sawinski. I don't know in terms of where my exposure is currently, but I do like some of these one-offs. Brent Rooker's another guy for the A's I like a good bit. So I don't know. I don't know where they are in terms of exposure. I haven't really finished my runs.
You got some taters for us, Tim?
Yeah, I got Christian Walker plus 400.
Well, that's pretty good. I like that. I said taters. You have a tater?
No,
you have an extra one or no?
I only have one single tater. No taters.
One sad tater. Just all by
one sad tater.
Are we not at 100 likes just yet, or is Spidey slipping? How are we not at 100 likes at this point? We should be. I know Spidey bombs are coming at 100. What do you got, Bobby, for the people as far as who's banging out a homer?
It can be anyone on any.
Be as ambitious as you want to be. Yeah, sure. You could say whoever you like.
Let me go Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm gonna stick in that game too. Let's see. I'm gonna Ketel Marte, kind of chalky. I don't know if it's chalky, but he's kind of a big name. I'm gonna go left on left, Max Muncy. He might hit it off the bullpen. That still counts. That's still scoreboard. But I'll say Max Muncy. People don't like picking left on left stuff. Tim, is there a stack or is there a player in particular? I know you roll out your one lineup that you're most afraid of not having.
I probably it's pretty much the Phillies.
No, that's my answer.
That entire yeah. It's like Schwarber, Harper. I probably am not going to have them, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, Griffin Canning has not been especially good. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. And you're making one lineup, I assume, right? Basically one lineup.
Yep.
Yeah, I have one main and I have some other stuff for funsies, but basically one main lineup, and I'm probably not going to have them in my main lineup. Same question for you, Bobby. What are the Sims telling you what to do? Is there something that looks really, really good, but they're going to be too heavily owned? You're going to get less in the field. Anything you're seeing there, or still kind of figuring it out?
Probably Toronto and the Phillies. Probably not going to have as much as everyone else, I would say.
Monty in chat is saying Brandon Marsh for a homer, but you know who else is going to give us some homer calls? It's Kevin Roth. It's Dave Potts. It's STL Cards. It's crunch time. They're here.
Surprise.
Wait a second. I was told Roth's name was on the thing, right? This isn't my goof?
No, you're just wrong.
Roth has an NBA tryout tonight, guys.
for the Wizards?
For the Wizards. Yeah.
Maybe the Suns.
TJ,
he can be the only Suns draft pick for the next 6 years.
Oh my gosh. It's tough scene for it's been a rough few years for Durant, right? If you really want to go through it year by year, I don't think I have time for such things. But all right. So weather-wise, I think we're clear. I know, Cards, you filled in earlier in the week, or last week, I guess it was, weather-wise. You did a spectacular job. TJ, you taking on that role today, weather-wise?
Well, I think what happened is Roth saw the one game was postponed, and even though I don't even think that was on the original slate, and said, I'm good. And so not really worried about weather too much. And so here
let's let Cards do the weather, because he's unbelievable at it. And then we can just move on. I mean, I don't want to waste this talent while we have it here.
Yeah,
Roth's job's pretty easy. Wouldn't you say, Cards, after the other day?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous that he's getting a paycheck, to be honest.
I say the same thing about Dino. I say the same thing about Dino.
I mean, sometimes Washington, I guess, makes him work a little bit, he says, but we don't even have them today. And yeah, I mean, it's a pretty easy gig if you ask me.
Being told in chat, by the way, apparently the Yahoo slate starts at 6:35. I don't know if you guys are playing on Yahoo or not, but that's a good note if you're playing on Yahoo. Tim, it was fun. Bobby, it was fun as well. Do you want to yield to crunch time? You got STL Cards. You got Dave Potts. You got TJ. Tim, go Panthers. That's why Ross not here. He didn't want to face with my Panthers.
Wait. Before you guys leave, Dean, a very official congratulations. No, it's never going to be enough. You're fantastic, and you're a hero, and go get him.
Don't lie to him.
I'm just trying to be like a third as good as Dave Potts for sure, but we're getting there, I suppose, one of these days. I appreciate it. All right, TJ, it's all you, right? You're taking it away. You're hosting, I imagine. TJ,
yes, sir. Let's get into it. And you were right with your tears from earlier. I cannot defend Madam Web. I haven't even seen it. I haven't seen Madam Web. I haven't seen Morbius. The Sony Marvel movies, Dean, we pretend do not exist. They have a contract with Marvel. The only way they can keep the rights to making Spider-Man movies is if they pump out a Spider-Man related movie every year. So they just throw out these terrible movies like Morbius, like Madam Web, then another one coming this year, Kraven the Hunter. So we just like to pretend those don't exist. But no one cares about that. We're here to talk about baseball, MLB crunch time, and we got two of the sharpest minds in the biz joining us. First off, Dave Potts. Cheese is good. How you doing, Dave?
Doing all right. Yeah, it's a fun little slate. It's not like super clear what to do. We've got some pitching chalk, but it's kind of wide open on the hitting side. I like it when it's not, hey, this is obviously what everyone's going to do.
And then helping us out as well, we got another baseball expert and weather expert apparently as well, Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cards. How you doing, Cards?
Yeah, doing good. Fun little Monday here, and the weather's pretty easy as always. They already axed the Cardinals game tonight in Detroit, but that wasn't on the main DK or FanDuel slates anyway, so that one is out. They'll play 2 tomorrow and probably won't be on either of the main slates with that. And then just 2 games that we've got as green-yellow for a potential spotty shower in New York for the Cubs and Mets, and potentially in Chicago for the Twins and White Sox, but nothing that seems like it will cause much of a problem. So once again, both of those at green-yellow, and another easy day for sure.
Well, why don't you start taking us with your pitching thoughts on today's slate, and then we'll start diving into this.
Yeah, as Cheese mentioned, it's kind of a day where we've got some chalk at pitching, but not a whole lot else in terms of chalk with the bats. So I think this is a slate where you don't overthink it with what you do at pitcher, and then you can differentiate your lineups with your bats, because basically, if you're on DraftKings, you can play Joe Ryan and Max Fried and then call it good if you want, because they're head and shoulders on a points per dollar basis, I think, better than everybody else on the slate. And Fried is really cheap on FanDuel, that if you're playing on FanDuel, you can either just play Ryan or you can go down a little bit and play Fried. And there's really no reason to, get super deep with your pitching pool on this slate. Now on DraftKings, maybe you want to throw a couple other guys in there, but you got to note that, if it's cash games, I think you're playing Ryan and Fried, and then you've got enough salary, I think, to work with the bats. Fried is 8,700 on DK. The question is, are you getting enough of a discount to go to anybody else? Like, you could go down to Severino for 500 less. Christopher Sanchez maybe in a good matchup. But it's not enough of a discount from Max Fried really to interest me, unless you're going like all the way down to Joe Boyle against the Pirates, or Bailey Falter against Oakland on the other side of that game, or something like that. But I just, to me, those guys just have so much more risk when you look at Ryan facing the White Sox, who got their allotment of wins for the next month over the weekend against the Rays. And then, you got Fried, who's been pitching a lot better after a shaky start to the year and still seems a bit underpriced. Rodriguez for Toronto would be the other guy that I'm kind of interested in, but they're just not extending his pitch count at all. And again, it's just, there's so many concerns with all these other guys, and they're not coming at enough of a discount. I could see throwing a Nick Lodolo or a Garrett Crochet into some, MME GPP pool type of lineups. But really, I think you could make a case to just lock button Fried and Ryan and move on and build out your lineups with your bats.
I did promise Spidey Bombs at 100 likes, and so I got 2 for the people, because I believe one of them actually was a tater from Tim as well. So we got Christian Walker, Spidey Bomb number 1, and then a second one for the people, since we don't want to just double down. We got Dalton Varsho as Spidey Bomb number 2. We got a third one coming at 150 likes, so keep smashing that like button. Cheese, who you liking today for pitcher?
So I think on DraftKings, there's a discussion to be had about what to do with Max Fried at this point, because I do think we might just get to a silly ownership level on a guy who is still a better real life pitcher than DFS pitcher. Like, I started the day thinking I'll just lock in Ryan and Fried. As I'm moving on the DraftKings side specifically, most of the lineups I want to build need a cheaper pitcher. And like, Max Fried is not likely to be the guy who kills you for not having him. Like, he's not likely to throw another complete game shutout. And that's kind of what he needs to be, like a ceiling guy. Like, the reason you play him is because he's very good and he's going to be good. But it's not super likely that he gives you that, oh, you can't possibly win without whatever he does, like a 20 to 25 point game. So I am doing more goofing around with cheap pitching at SP2 on DraftKings, just so I can get these bats that I want. Kind of like Card said, on FanDuel, he's so cheap. Like, I think Ryan and Fried can be your whole pool on FanDuel. I do think that's reasonable. But on the DK side, I have a bunch of just nonsense cheap darts, mostly Matt Waldron and Bailey Falter. I've got a couple of Joe Boyle shares, but I don't like, he's my least favorite of that cheap group. And then I also have some pivots off of Fried, to like Christopher Sanchez, Garrett Crochet, and then the kind of no man's land pricing on Jameson Taillon. Essentially, what I'm saying is Fried is the best play, but I also don't think it's super likely that you just can't win without Max Fried. So I'm willing to go cheaper at SP2 in most of my lineups to get the bats that I want.
Before we get into stacks, there's never been a better time to sign up for RotoGrinders Premium with NBA, PGA, NHL, MMA, and MLB. And we've got an option for whatever level you're looking for. You get yourself a 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99. That's $250 in savings instead of buying 6 individual months of combo premium. You can also get your first month of RG Premium for $40 off for a limited time. Those that want a test run before buying can dip their toes in the water with our 3-day pass at $19.99. Check the link in our description for more info right down there. Keep smashing that like button. Let's see how close we are to Spidey Bomb number 3. Only 5 likes away. Let's get it up there. Cheese, who do you like today for stacks?
So kind of in some ways, a little bit of everybody, and kind of in some ways, just the Dodgers and the Phillies. I'm very hopeful that for some weird reason, the Phillies are not chalky. I think everything after the Dodgers gets kind of spread out. So officially for me, it's Dodgers and Phillies as a top tier, followed by a pretty big tangle. I like the Royals. I kind of like the Blue Jays. I kind of like the Twins. I like Arizona a very good bit. And then I have some other just random stacks after that.
I love Arizona today. They're the one I'm going with single entry, at least with their projected ownership as low as it is. That's the one I'm looking to go to quite a bit.
Yeah, who's more likely to accidentally throw a strike, James Paxton or Joe Boyle today?
Hopefully,
or neither, or neither.
To Christian Walker so that he can hit one out of the park.
Yeah, if either of them accidentally find the strike zone, it will be a miracle.
Cards, how about you? Who you liking today for stacks?
Yeah, that stole my thunder. I was going to say, when's the last time you've been able to get the team that has basically tied for the third highest implied team total at 4.7 runs at 5% ownership or less for the entire lineup? That doesn't happen very often. So, that game has a 10-run total. Arizona, maybe they bust out of it here in a series where, there's going to be a few more eyeballs on with the Dodgers in town and stuff. So I know it's been a struggle for them offensively. Carroll's down to 8th in the lineup now, but eventually this team's going to figure it out with the bats. And if Paxton's control is off, I just think it's an upside spot for that offense. If the ownership, I think it'll probably end up being a little bit higher than what we have it at, since we've got basically 3 people on here talking about liking the Diamondbacks and a couple of the guys on the show before. But I think that's the spot for certain where I'll have a higher ownership than the field does. Cincinnati could be in the same boat. Risk reward offense strikes out a lot. Waldron, knuckleball guy, you just never know when the Babbitt Bluck's going to go the other way. So, and he's going to have a little bit of ownership too. So I could see like Cincinnati as a deep MME stack, but I greatly prefer Arizona. And otherwise, I don't think there's anybody else other than the teams that have already been mentioned. The Rays, I think, maybe they're a little bit fired up after getting swept by the White Sox. Bullpen game for Milwaukee tonight. Wilson, might be the worst pitcher on the slate. So I don't hate Tampa. Otherwise, yeah, it's definitely the Dodgers ahead of the field for me. Philly number 2, and I like Arizona a lot.
All right, let's start going position by position here. Cards, why don't you start us off at the catcher position? Oh, first, though, we do have enough likes for Spidey Bomb number 3, and that is Jose Miranda is going to be knocking one out of the park today. So Miranda, Spidey Bomb number 3. Cards, who do you like at catcher?
Yeah, this is tough because I don't really love spending for Ryan Jeffers as chalk. I know he's leading off, but salary does become a thing tonight, especially if you are playing Fried and Ryan on DraftKings. Obviously, you're probably not playing a catcher on FanDuel, but Jeffers fine in Minnesota stacks. I'm underweight on the Minnesota bats. Crochet should be better than he has been. So I'm fine if you're playing Jeffers in cash or in Minnesota stacks, but in GPPs, it's probably Will Smith as a spend up for sure. Otherwise, Vasquez would be a pivot away from Jeffers for a lot cheaper and would differentiate your Minnesota stacks a little bit. So I don't mind that, even though he's hitting 8th. If you're not on Max Fried, Mitch Garver's a guy you could consider as a power threat from the right side as well as a tournament play. Maybe William Contreras as a contrarian spend up option. Of course, you can always play whoever you got in your stack, but Smith, Vasquez as a pivot, maybe some Travis d'Arnaud at lower ownership tonight hitting 8th, I think are all kind of fine plays.
Cheese, how about you?
Will Smith is the only catcher on FanDuel that I'm interested in outside of stacks. And on DK, like, he's within $1,000 of everybody that I kind of want to play. So I'm mostly playing Will Smith. I like Danny Jansen and Ryan Jeffers as the mid-tier, like 4K. It's that's mid-tier. But for catcher, it's kind of expensive on this slate. And I don't mind like the punts, even in a tournament lineup, if you just want to spend everywhere else. Like Cards mentioned Vasquez. I think that's quite playable. You could do Higashioka, Shea Langelier, 3,400. But mostly just Will Smith. He's not that expensive.
All right, Cheese, take me over to first base.
I actually finally love this position. It's been a long time coming. On FanDuel, it's we don't have Ohtani, but we do have Freeman. But I like Harper better. You both mentioned Arizona, like Christian Walker. Whether you're playing Arizona as a whole or just want one guy, that Christian Walker's that guy. I can go cheap too. I mean, Austin Shenton hitting 5th is fine. Rowdy Tellez is fine. But I also like spinning up for Matt Olson today. This is a Matt Olson kind of spot with just absolutely no ownership. So, yeah, on DraftKings, Ohtani. Otherwise, Harper, Walker, Olson.
Quick question, just because it is related to this position from the YouTube chat. Would you go Will Smith or Freddie Freeman in FanDuel cash? I feel like that's anytime you can get Freeman, you got to go Freeman, right?
The correct answer is Freeman. I would play Smith for whatever that means. Sometimes just lean the opposite way of the air quotes correct answer. Will Smith looks better to me this year, and with the super crazy elite plate skills.
Cards, how about you? Who would be your take on that one? And then who do you like at first?
Yeah, I would probably play Freeman, but getting a Dodger in there is fine either way.
Cards copying out with the correct answer. What are you doing?
I gave the textbook answer. I got an A. If Will Smith hits a home run, I can just say, "Hey, Cheese got it right," and then you asked him first. If Freeman is the winner, then obviously Cheese looks pretty dumb for saying that. So either way I look at it, I win either way with answering that question second. But otherwise, there's not a whole lot. What's that?
Well done. I cannot argue. So I'm in a lose-lose, but great job.
Fun spots to be in for sure. Otherwise, yeah, I think the position, that's pretty much a good wrap on it. Freeman at the spend up. I too like Shenton as a cheaper guy. Alec Boehm is first base eligible on DraftKings at 4,800. If you want to play him at first, though, if you're stacking Philly, you probably want to put Harper in there. But again, salary is a thing. So if you're playing Boehm instead of Harper in your Philly stacks, I can understand playing Boehm at first. Brandon Drury, another guy that's first base eligible on DK. And Spencer Steer as a super contrarian spend up in tournaments only. He's 5,400. But again, against the knuckleballer that if he makes contact, it could go a long way. I don't mind playing some of Steer or perhaps even Rhys Hoskins in tournaments.
And you're muted, TJ.
The cat was meowing, so I muted and I forgot about it as I was adjusting lineups. Getting some more Austin Shenton because you guys both like them. Take me over to second base, Cards.
All right. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird night where the things are reversing back to their old trends of first base being okay and, second base, which has been one of the stronger spots being a little bit weaker. I mean, obviously you can play Mookie Betts, but at 6,600 on DK tonight, he's tough to fit in the Joe Ryan lineups on DK. He's a little easier to fit in the Max Fried lineups on FanDuel. So just as a function of salary, it's tough for me to get to Mookie Betts tonight. You got a tough matchup for Albies, a tough matchup for Bogarts, just a lot of these high-end second basemen that, okay, if Ketel Marte is going to be 2% owned, I'll just take a shot on him in some GPP lineups. But there's really not a whole lot to love at this position tonight, so I don't think there's a huge opportunity cost to going cheap. Davis Schneider at 3,700. You could go down to Kike Hernandez. There's some pinch hit risk there at 2,800 on DK. Bryson Stott is hitting lower in the Philly lineup. He's kind of mid-salary at 4,200. I think I'd prefer Jonathan India in that range. Again, I'm probably a little bit higher on the Reds than most. But I don't have a problem with punting this position with a Kike if you need that salary relief tonight.
Cheese, it looks like a pretty gross position today, but we can also get what seems like a low-owned Ozzy Albies or Ketel Marte. What are you doing today at second?
Yeah, I do like Albies and Marte. Like every position has a couple of these guys. It's kind of like the Olsen or Steer or Alonso or something at first. Like there's good players.
What Jose Ramirez is every night.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're spending up, pretty much everyone's playing Mookie Betts for obvious reasons. That's fantastic. But those guys are $1,000 cheaper and kind of in no man's land. So yes, I like Marte and Albies a lot. But like everybody else, I don't actually have a lot of them because you still can't just spend $5,500 at every spot. So I have more. I think Biggio is probably my highest owned cheap guy. I've got who else do I have in there? Well, Stott because I like the Phillies. Michael Massey. I have a little bit as another cheap guy. I think that's Davis Schneider a little bit as well.
All right, take me to third.
It's okay. Third is okay. Cards mentioned Alec Boehm at first. I'm playing him at third because I think third is a little weaker tonight. He's my favorite play. I do think Max Muncy being in the lineup is very interesting. He can hit Henry, and Henry's only going to pitch a few innings anyway after he gets shellacked. And then Machado is kind of like that low-owned guy at third that you can play, Riley or Machado. I think are both excellent plays. I don't like the salary savers nearly as much here as other positions, so I'm less tempted to do that, although I do have a couple of Tyler Nevin on DK. 2,400 just kind of allows you to do whatever you want. But ideally, like Boehm, Muncy, Machado, or maybe like Paredes at like $4,500 range.
Cards, how about you?
Yeah, it is a tough night to try to save at that position unless you like the Twins. Obviously, I know TJ likes Miranda, and he's been hitting the ball pretty well, so he would be your popular kind of cheapish play at 3,100 on DK. Obviously, Boehm, who I like. I think Michael Garcia is fine as a individual play, or if you're rolling kind of a sneakier Kansas City stack, you can play him. Agree with the thoughts on Muncy. I'm not sure what it says about the A's that Abraham Toro is sitting cleanup tonight, but he is also kind of in that mid-range mess. I really like Suarez. Obviously, I've mentioned Arizona guys at most all the positions, so Suarez hitting fifth is a nice mid-range option as well. Otherwise, I think we've pretty much covered third. All
right, take us to short.
Okay, so this to me is either a spend way up or spend way down position, and it's not quite as obvious as it has been on a lot of slates that, you've got to play X spend up guy, right? The Gunner isn't on the main slate tonight. There's a few teams that have the day off. Volpe with the Yankees and Orioles kind of starting right now. So it's not as deep at the top as usual. So like the top end guys you have, you got Betts, obviously, who you're probably playing at second if you're playing him on DraftKings. But Turner is probably the spend up that most people will play. because Philly projects well tonight. Then Bobby Witt in a little bit of a tougher matchup projects about 1.5 less. And then you've got De La Cruz, of course, with his, dual threat upside. I don't know if I like Ellie as much given the matchup tonight. Feel like he might struggle a little bit with the knuckleball, but so Turner is probably the spend up for me, Witt as the more contrarian guy. But outside of that, there's really not enough to spend on a position to get excited about. And we're actually showing a good bit of ownership on Nico Goodrum and Zach Neto as punts. I'd imagine the Neto number will go down because he's batting ninth. And I mean, Nico Goodrum is basically min salary. So I get it. I'm just not super excited about it. And I would prefer to spend up if you can, or at least get into the mid-range, like a Carlos Correa type, because I really don't want to play Zach Neto and Nico Goodrum as chalky-ish.
Plays. What? Chalky Goodrum? What are you talking about?
Yeah, just not exciting to me. So I don't know. Most of the nights it's a slam dunk. Hey, play one of these studs at shortstop. But it's a little bit trickier on this slate, I think.
Geez, I'm getting my highest owned shortstop today is Blaze Alexander. There's no way he's only going to be 3% owned, is he?
No, just because of Arizona stacks. I mean, not that that's like chalk, but like he'll be in most Arizona stacks because he's leadoff. And like salary wise, he fits pretty nicely if you don't want to play Correa. Like Correa is going to project better because of past numbers, but like I don't really want to play Correa. Like I want to see him look alive first. Personally, like I mostly just like Alexander in stacks, but he is fine because that's like that price range in between the studs and those kind of cheap nonsense punts. But personally, I want all the Bobby Witt on this slate. Like just going back to that whole, every position has these superstars that are going to get low ownership just because of where the stacks line up. So yeah, if I can get Bobby Witt lower owned than Betts, Ellie De La Cruz, Trey Turner, O'Neal Cruz, Lindor, even like give me Bobby Witt. What in the world? I'm nervous about Ellie De La Cruz. Like if he's ever going to strain his oblique, it's going to be trying to hit a knuckleball. He's going to see that thing floating in, and he's going to wind up and spin around and strike out on the ground.
Or hit it if he gets 512 feet.
Yeah, exactly. Or steal like 9 bases because like this is like he's a super wide range of outcomes guy pretty much every night, but he's also against kind of a wide range of outcomes pitcher.
If one of those knuckleballs hits him in the foot, you can pretty much guarantee he's getting a third.
Yeah. So it to me, like he and Witt are the two guys that could just kind of break the slate at very low ownership. I think Witt will be even lower, so he's my favorite. And I'm fine with those cheap guys, but I would rather go cheap at any other position. And I would also probably rather play Willie Castro if you have a little bit more than the Goodrum or Neto.
We're up to 175 likes, but if we can get up over 200, I got one more Spidey bomb here for the people. Cheese, why don't you take us out to the outfield?
It's pretty deep as usual. I love the Phillies, so I like Schwarber as a spend up. But again, like every position, we've got these guys who are just, they have to be under-owned. Fernando Tatis and Mike Trout are the two kind of jumping out at me. But like, what do you do with all these guys? I don't even know who to say next. Like, I think I'm going to say outside of Schwarber and like the occasional, obviously Ohtani, but like outside of the occasional, I have extra money and I can play like a Tatis or even Acuna or something like that. I like the mid-range pretty well. So like Dalton Varsho, Brian Reynolds, Brandon Marsh, Nick Castellanos, Velasquez, Sawinski. Like there's a whole bunch of guys in that like 35 to 4,500 on DK that you can get 3 of them pretty comfortably. So I'm quite content with that. Not like super cheap, but 3,200. I think Andy Paez is my favorite semi-cheap guy, and I don't have to have him in Dodger stacks personally. I'll play him on his own. Pete Crow Armstrong. is 2,500 on DraftKings. He's in my pool as a cheap guy. There's plenty of cheap guys you can throw
Cheese just
darts
likes
at.
anybody with 3 names. I've come. To
Yeah,
know.
I mean that's a lot of names, and one of them's Crow. 3 names, one
Arm
name after a bird.
Strong.
4 names basically at this point. So yeah, you're not wrong. I don't know if I like him or if his name is just Pete Crow Armstrong. Yeah, I think that's enough to mention.
All right, keep getting those likes up. We are close to Spidey Bomb number 4. And then, of course, get your questions in. I'll be looking at the RotoGrinders Discord live stream chat first, followed by the YouTube chat second. We do still have lots of time to log, so get your questions in because we will have time for them. Cards, who do you like at the outfield?
Yeah, I agree that kind of that mid-range approach does make your lineups come together a little bit better, especially if you need to spend up at pitcher tonight. So obviously we know who the high-end guys are, and that guys like Trout are going to be low-owned tonight. So if you can fit one of them, play him. I mean, you don't need us to tell you any more on that. But some of these other kind of values to mid-range guys, again, I'm maybe a little higher on Cincinnati. So Jake Fraley hitting cleanup, Will Benson hitting leadoff. I think they're fine as one-off plays. Brandon Marsh hitting 5th for Philly should get some RBI opportunities tonight. Dare I say that I kind of like Joe Adell. This won't end well, but he's 3K on DK, and he's been like 2,500 on FanDuel forever. At least looks a little more confident this go around in the big leagues, hitting 2nd tonight, which, I mean, why not give him a shot in that lineup with Rendon out again? So JD Martinez, I'm not picking on Tyon a ton, but he's back and took some good at-bats over the weekend. So I think JD Martinez is okay. I like Randall Grichuk. There's some pinch hit risk there for him when Paxton comes out of the game, but hopefully, he's cheap enough that maybe he can get something done the first couple times through the order. And he's, basically 3,600. He's 3,600 on DK and kind of in that mid-range on FanDuel as well. So, let's see, scrolling down like the ownership to see if there's anybody else. I don't think there's a whole lot that we haven't mentioned that I'm on tonight. So I think we've pretty much covered outfield here.
I will say, if we can get these likes up to 200, the 4th Spidey Bomb is in the outfield, and I actually don't think he was mentioned, unless I just totally missed it, but I don't think I did. So keep getting those likes up. Cards, who do you like today to hit home?
Well, since I just sung the praises, I'm going to go with Joe Adell as my YOLO cheap guy tonight. On the, let's see, on the high end, I'll go with Bryce Harper. Let me try to find one of those Arizona guys as well. Everybody's already mentioned. I'll go with Suarez, Adell, and Bryce Harper.
Suarez was in consideration for the 4th Spidey Bomb, but was not him. I love that call today. Guess what? We're at 185 likes. You want cheeses? I need 193 likes before you get cheeses home run calls, because that means we are closer to the 200 too. I'm baiting you, and I need you to get it. All right, let's start taking some QQs here. Best DK cash outfielder, 4,200 or below, cheese.
42 or below. I'm gonna have to scroll on that one to.
Will Benson, Velasquez, Varsho.
I would Varsho that one.
Spidey Bomb, I like it. Let's see. Nothing else in the Discord. Let's go over to YouTube. Get your questions in, guys. We got time. What is your take kind of here on Arizona, cheese? Because a lot of people were asking about that in chat. We're projecting them to be low owned, but I think because of that, everybody all throughout the day, kind of across the industry, has been talking about Arizona looks great. They're low owned. Do you think they're going to get steamed way up, or do you think they will all come in sub 10% ownership?
I think they'll end up sub 10. Like, I think they'll be closer to 10 than where they started. But like when these things happen, it's not like the whole slate gets flipped and they become chalk. Like they're still not like one of the 2 or 3 most popular teams. So if you like them, still just hammer them. You'll easily get ahead of the field. I wouldn't worry about the ownership. Just play them if you like them.
Apparently, all we got to do to get the likes up is not say Spidey Bums are coming, but say Chiefs' home run calls are coming, because we are over 200 now. Spidey Bum number 4 is, in fact, Mike Tauchman. I don't think I heard anybody mention him in the outfield, but I like him as a mid-range, sneaky DFS option and a home run play today. Cheese, who are your home run calls?
High end with some ownership will be Kyle Schwarber. High end without some ownership would be Matt Olson. Mid tier, I'm going to jump on the Dalton Varsho train. And something cheap and weird. There's actually a few that I kind of like, but it's not just because of his name. Pete Crow Armstrong.
Sure, it's not. Sure, it is not. FanDuel cash cards: Freeman and Bohm, or Kike Hernandez. Freeman, Bohm, and Kike, or Will Smith, Suarez, and Pagan. Pagan. I don't know. Maybe that was Pages.
Probably means
Yeah,
Pages.
it might be Pages. I'd go with that one.
Pages, yeah. A lot of talk about Pete Crow, Armstrong. We got people asking for home runs. Teoscar or Gurriel as a one-off cards.
I mean, it's Gurriel for me. It's another spot where, like, the correct answer is probably Teoscar, but if you're talking GPPs, I like Arizona better.
DK large field tournament. What do you think about an Angels 3-man stack of Adele, Trout, and Neto? Cheese?
I mean, anything's fine. I don't personally love it, but it's fine.
If you were running 150, how many A's stacks would you have? I am running 150. I have 0 5-man A's stacks, but I have 10 3-man A's stacks. So not getting there as a full stack. Don't hate them as a mini stack. I'm getting like Rooker, Ruiz, and Toro, something like that as a mini stack, and in a few lineups today. Pepio or Lodolo, Cheese?
The short answer is no, but they're both like totally viable. I would lean Pepio. They have some potential. I get it with both of them. I don't think I have any Lodolo, and I think I have 1 or 2 Pepio. I don't think you're doing anything wrong to play either or, but give me Pepio.
Steer or Varsho on FanDuel cards?
In cash games, Varsho. In tournaments, Steer for me.
On FanDuel, who you got? Straight up Cheese, Witt, or Trey Turner?
Witt.
If you're playing a Milwaukee stack cards, you want Terang or Adames?
Crazy that we're asking that question nowadays. I'd probably still go Adames, but full disclosure, I don't have any Milwaukee exposure tonight.
DraftKings doesn't say the format, Cheese, but would you want Fried and Teoscar Hernandez or Adele and Joe Ryan?
Fried and Teoscar.
Is Jameson Taillon viable for FanDuel tournaments cards?
Not for me. I mean, I just don't see the ceiling to make him a GPP guy at his current salary. So I will pass. I don't know. It seemed like Cheese might be a little bit higher on Taillon than me, but he's another one of those guys that you're probably not going to lose because you didn't roster Taillon.
Cheese, if your answer was no for Pepio versus Lodolo, I can't imagine it's going to be pretty for this one. Cheese, which Chicago White Sox do you think is gives you the most leverage off Ryan?
Leverage. Officially, I don't have a White Sox anywhere, but it's fine to play one. I mean, Ryan does give up home runs. Most of his power is to righties, so I would lean Eloy Jimenez if you were going to just throw one in there.
I think that's probably until Luis Robert gets back. That's probably the answer every night.
Yeah,
If
sometimes
you
it cheats if a guy is splitsy enough, but for Ryan, I would definitely go with Eloy there.
Cards, what do you think of Reynolds and Sawinski as a mini stack?
I mean, I'd roster it over some of the others that people have been throwing out there as cheap stuff, but it's not a great park. There's going to be about 30 people there. I mean, who's going to Oakland to watch the Pirates and the A's? I just can't get super excited about it. We've got some ownership on Sawinski as well. Like, I don't know. It's a pass for me.
All right. Next question here. Cheese, are you okay with playing Bailey Falter on DraftKings tonight?
Oh, yeah. I have an uncomfortable amount. Yeah.
Best second baseman, 3,900 or under. That is Davis Schneider. Raise stack or a twin stack on FanDuel cards?
What was that, Razor? Who?
Twins.
Ooh, given the projected ownership, I like the Rays a little bit better.
I'm playing Telkman and Crow Armstrong in single entry on FanDuel. Love that. DK, GPP, cards and cheese. How much Severino do you each have? Cheese, I'll throw that to you first.
I have no problem with it. He's a fine pitcher in the same tier as a bunch of other guys. I have 0.
Cards?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how many lineups you're running. Like, if you're only running 3 lineups, you're probably not getting to them. If you're only running 5, 10, you're probably not getting to them. Like, if you're running 50 plus, yeah, throw them in 10, 12%.
Any Seattle stacks? Not for me. Cheesy, getting any Seattle?
Nope.
Cards, who's your favorite GPP starting pitcher not named Fried?
I can cheat and say Joe Ryan then if he's not excluded. But that's probably against the premise of the question. Yeah, this is a tough one to answer tonight. You could probably just close your eyes and guess and get about as close as a good answer. Lodolo officially, if you're looking to get contrarian, but like if you're looking to go super cheap, you're just hoping that they don't implode. I don't hate the Bailey Falter logic. So if you're looking to go cheap, that's fine. But there's really not a whole lot of conviction there tonight.
QQ, is Vlad good at baseball? Not right now. Hopefully he will be again because he is. He's fantastic. But he's got some things he's got to work through with that swing right now.
It would be such a shame if he had a career year at age 22 and never. I don't know if he ever gets back to that. But yeah, I mean he's good. Yeah.
I just hate John Schneider, then their basically whole managerial team in general. So I'm hoping for some kind of shakeup partial of the way through this year. Hopefully they can get things going because Bichette, I'm confident, turns around this slow start. George Springer and Vladdy, less so unless there are some changes because Vladdy has just been the same problem for the last year and a half with nothing adjusting.
The Cardinals and Blue Jays did a trade last year for at the deadline. So, if you're interested in a managerial trade, I can try to arrange Ali Marmol to the Blue Jays if you're interested.
All right, we'll see what we can do. Knowing nothing about this guy, maybe I don't know if we can both do worse. We can't both do worse.
TJ, say no. TJ, say no.
Say no. Okay, I trust Cheese here. Stott, Miranda, or Schneider and Suarez for DK cash cards.
Miranda, Schneider. What was it again?
Stott and Miranda or Schneider and Suarez?
I'd go Schneider and Suarez.
Cheese, 3K outfielder play on FanDuel for cash.
FanDuel, you got a bunch of guys there. Honestly, I would not. I'm going to say who I would not play, and that's Byron Buxton in cash. I think I would lean Paez or Marsh.
All right, going back to Discord here, and then I'll try and hit the rest of the FanDuel ones before lock. But I asked for a lot of questions, and we are getting a lot of questions. So let's go lightning round here. Cheese, FanDuel cash, Harper, Trey Turner, and Adele, or Christian Walker, Blaze, and Schwarber?
Walker, Blaze, Schwarber.
FanDuel single entry, favorite stack, and FanDuel GPP favorite pitcher cards.
The stack, I think we're all kind of on Arizona as the choice there, and I agree with that. Pitcher on FanDuel, I mean, at the salary, I just think you eat some of the chalk with Max Fried tonight. I am not playing anyone else on FanDuel other than Fried and Ryan.
All right. FanDuel Cash, Cheese, Massey and Teoscar, or Stott and Paez?
That's a close one. I would go Massey Teoscar.
FanDuel GPP cards, Royals or Blue Jays?
I think it's the Royals for me tonight.
Fab Contrarian, thoughts on a San Diego stack for a DK GPP, Cheese?
I like him as a mini stack. I mean, anything's fine as a full stack, but like I mostly just like playing Tatis and Machado and then maybe take one of the cheap guys at the bottom.
All right. Favorite contrarian pitcher for the FanDuel Monster Tourney, Cheese. So who's your favorite pitcher on FanDuel not named Ryan or Fried?
Yeah. And the good thing is those two are going to take up so much of the ownership. Everything else is sneaky. I think I would say Christopher Sanchez.
All right. QQ, bets with Severino or Cruz with Ryan in a DK single entry cards?
Is that O'Neill Cruz, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd take the other one. Betts and Severino, was that it?
Yeah. Do you think a Fried and Phillies with Arizona 4-4 stack will be duplicated, Cheese, on FanDuel? I guess that really depends on your contest size.
Yeah. I mean, really, I don't think anything should ever be expected to be actually literally duplicated. I think you won't be the only person with a Fried Phillies Arizona 4-4. But duplicated? No, probably not.
FanDuel GPP cards, Adele and Ward mini stack or Gurriel and Paez?
Yeah, I'd go with the mini stack. I mean, I'm not going crazy with Angels tonight, but I don't mind like those two plus Trout.
FanDuel Cash, Cheese, Ohtani Goodrum or Teoscar and Blaze?
Teoscar Blaze.
FanDuel single entry GPP, best pitcher 9K or less. It is absolutely Max Fried. A lot of suggestions for Vlad. DK Cash, Cheese, Schwarber and Tatis, or Buxton and Ohtani?
Pretty good combos. I like Schwarber or Tatis.
All right. I think we have nailed all of the questions right now. How close are we to lock? We got a minute and a half left. Good job, everybody. Can you play both pitchers? Can you pay down for yes, you can play both pitchers today. You have to play two pitchers. Can you pay down for both pitchers tonight in a GPP cards on DraftKings?
I don't think there's any reason to. I mean, I'm okay if you start with Fried or Sanchez, but like, I don't know, one of those guys is going to have a good enough outing to where like, do you really need to go cheap enough to go like Waldron Falter or Falter Boyle? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can do it in one or two lineups if you're building a bunch, but it doesn't excite me a whole lot.
For what it's worth, I went Sanchez and Falter just to get off of the Fried chalk on DraftKings today. But
for whatever it's worth, I have Waldron Falter. Exactly what cards called you a jabroni for having.
Yeah,
and the lineup, and it's not great.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
shouldn't be your goal.
You're not doing 100 lineups of that, are you?
No, that's my single
lock
entry.
button Waldron Falter. No.
4,100 last man in second base FanDuel Cash, Dave.
What'd you say?
4,100 second base FanDuel Cash.
I mean, that's anyone other than Betts, right? I would play Marte.
There's a few people making fun of Vladdy's weight as the reason why he's struggling, but when he was bigger, he was having his MVP season. He lost an absolute ton of weight, and he is now struggling. So I've seen people theorize on social media that I have no idea if they're baseball people or not, just saying that like, hey, in golf, a lot of the time people lose weight and it messes with their swing for a few years. Maybe that's happening to Vladdy. So who knows? But what were the Spidey Bombs? Varsho, Miranda, Taukman, and Christian Walker. Let's go back to the Discord here, see if we got any more questions. Cheese, who would be your favorite just one-offs on FanDuel? So just not stacks here, just a couple favorite high-end one-off, low-end one-off.
Bobby Witt and Brandon Marsh.
This one is specifically for Cheese, Buxton and Willie Castro, or Castellano and Blaze for FanDuel Cash.
Castellanos Blaze.
That will do it for questions. Do you think Vlad's issue could possibly be that he hits the ball on the ground? Yeah, that is the big issue.
Not could possibly, but
the swing is leading to all of his balls being hit on the ground. That is very much the issue. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. That'll do it. We've gone through questions. We have made it to lock. Good luck tonight, everyone. On behalf of myself, Dave, Cheese is Good, Justin, STL Cards, and Devin doing a wonderful job behind the scenes. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. You have been crunched.